name's Vickie Plant and I'm a kindergarten teacher at Goldson Elementary. And we did this presentation was to show teachers the importance of hands-on math and using manipulatives while still meeting the Florida standards, because we feel very strongly that it's important for our little ones to do everything they can in math with manipulatives and being able to explore with those manipulatives, so they kind of internalize it more, and it's just more developmentally appropriate for younger primary children to be actually working with objects and working with manipulatives instead of just using a worksheet and a pencil.
Things are changing, and what used to be is not now, and we have to embrace that and go with it. And I'm one of the old teachers that's really had to retrain my thinking, and I kind of enjoy that. So we just kind of want to introduce what some of those are and how we use them. The one that Vickie has is what we call a math stick. A couple of years ago I was looking for something that they could decompose numbers with and that they could actually move and that would stay with them. Not that they would lose different parts or have it in front of them, have like 10 manipulatives in front of them, and then it got mixed up with their neighbors and they've lost that 10. I wanted something that was intact. And so I came up with the math sticks, and we have two versions. This is our class version when we're doing it whole group, and then we also, you'll see these a lot that are the individual ones that they'll use to manipulate and decompose with.
And all it is conduit, that's what it is, right? Mm-hmm. And then a pool noodle that we cut. So
my husband loves when I go to Lowe's with him. The other thing that we use quite a bit is the 10 frame. And this, when Walmart was going out of business, I went and got some of the material really cheap and was really upset that it was brown, but now 5 years later I'm really excited that it was brown because it doesn't show a lot of dirt. But we use this with them, and they use it, they put things in it, but it's just a large, something that they can use when they're acting out a story or acting out a song for whole class purposes.
And we have two, so that when we start team numbers, they'll have their group of 10 and however many more.
Other thing we use a lot is a floor number line. And the same year that I did the 10 frame, I did this, and this is the material that you get for like a tablecloth that you can buy by the yard, but I absolutely do not think this is the best way of doing it. I was stuck with it because I had a lot of money involved in it, so I went ahead and finished it. But the way we do suggest, if you do decide to do a floor number line for your class purposes, is to use like the felt or something like that, because now they have big sheets of the duct tape that you can cut out numbers.
Cut it out. I have an old one that I'm still using just because I've not had time. You can actually buy them too if you don't want to make one. They make them, or they already have it. But I have my numbers cut, and it's just a whole duct tape sheet, and you can cut the numbers out and stick them on the felt.
So that's a lot easier to do. When we started this several years ago, I know you all know Linda Walker. Well, she came to kindergarten because kindergarten was the first ones that were going to make the transition. And one summer, and she was telling us, oh, you need to slow down. You need to do a number a week. And we were freaking out just a little bit. We were going, oh my goodness, you know, we were used to doing at least 2 numbers a week, and we were used to moving pretty fast, and I was like, oh my gosh, how long is it going to take for us to get to number 10, and what are we going to do? And I was just really reluctant about it, but I stuck with her, and I listened to her all week, and I immediately came back to my classroom that next week and started pulling stuff and started writing stuff, and she has really, she was right on the money. I mean, she has told us to slow down and do everything you can with each number. You decompose more or less. I'm drawing a blank.
Well, just
plus 1 minus 1.
Yeah, everything we do. And if your grade level hasn't, or your school hasn't taken advantage of her, I would highly suggest it, because she knows what she is talking about with our Florida standards and all that, and she is like a math genius, basically. She really knows what she's talking about.
She has been really sweet to us, and we can call her and she'll get right back to us because we've had lots of questions for her. But we did take her advice, and we went on good faith, and we started that next year. We did number 1 for a whole week. I thought, oh my goodness, what in the world can we do with number 1? But I was shocked at everything you can do with number 1. And so what you're going to see in the first few slides is some of the things that we've done with the numbers and how we use them. When the first slide is Pete the Cat, and what we do is we try to incorporate our language arts, our science, our social studies, everything into what we're doing in math, and so that it all kind of relates, and so that when we are talking about math and we want to bring out some vocabulary about something that we read about that morning in our ELA, it's a good chance to, oh, what happened when the butterfly did this or whatever. And it's another review. It just helps to reinforce what we do all day long. With Pete the Cat, we actually use him for number 2 and for number 4 because we absolutely love Pete the Cat. These are some of the, this is where we compared the 2 stories of Pete the Cat that with his shoes and with his buttons. Go ahead. The buttons, it lends itself to number 4. So when we're doing number 4, we do Pete the Cat. And Pete the Cat has this, he's a really groovy cat. He has a song that he sings, and he is losing his buttons. So as he's losing his buttons, he's all upset. And so we use that opportunity. We have 4 buttons. We take one away, and they actually do it themselves. They pop their button off, and how many are left? Do we have more that are off on the floor? Do we have more on his shirt? And they each have one of their own that they can manipulate. Because like Vickie said at the beginning, that it's so important that everybody is working, everybody's doing. They're not watching their neighbor do it when it's their turn and waiting on their turn, but everybody's doing math all the time. So everybody has one of those necklaces when we're doing that, but there's so many skills that we can do with just this little piece of felt and some buttons that I laminated and put on the Velcro.
And from the very beginning, we teach them the equal sign and the plus sign and the minus sign. And we go ahead and we start making equations with number 2. 2 equals 1 plus 1, or 2 equals 0 plus 2. We're not waiting to introduce addition or subtraction. They're starting right from the beginning.
And we start with that vocabulary. When we make an equation, we call it an equation. And so that's what they know. We have some parents or some people that say, ooh, you're teaching them equation. Well, that's what they know. That's what they learned from the beginning, so it's easy for them. This is another example of some things that we do with the number line. Those are the big buttons, and as they're singing the song, they're actually doing it in their horseshoe, but they're also getting a chance to pop off of the number line as it pops off and rolls away. And there's another example of them doing it with their own paper and singing the song, popping off. Do we have more that are off or more that are on? Are they equal, like Vickie said? Do we have equal amounts? Show me equal amount on the floor, equal amount on his shirt. So there's a lot of things that we can do with that. There's another example of the number line. And you see she's dancing to it because they just love it. And they beg to do it. So it's just a lot of fun, and they're, once again, they're on the number line, they're popping off of the number line so they can look, and so they're getting all that extra practice. And there's the individual one where they're doing the same thing as they're doing it, and they're popping them off of the number line. When we do like 4, we also do like rectangles and squares, and we go around, and because it has 4 sides and 4 vertices, and there again we call them corners at times, but we stress that they're vertices. We really try to call them the right thing and the right vocabulary from the beginning. So when they do go to 1st grade and 2nd grade, that's just embedded in them that, oh, that's a vertice, or go stand on the vertice on the rug, that type of thing. So they learn that very quickly. On the far corner is just where they've sorted crackers into rectangles and squares, and we teach them that a square is a rectangle. Whereas before, I had never really taught my 5-year-old that a square is a rectangle. But she said, yeah, go ahead, you know, do it. So it happened, and they caught on really fast, you know. I thought it was just me that had to make the adjustment. That I thought, well, that's just too high of a concept that they were not going to stand it. But hopefully down the road, when they do need to know that they're both rectangles, that they'll go, oh, I already knew that, so. This is Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and obviously we do that with the number 3. And there again, this is some of the language activities that we do with Goldilocks and the Three Bears. They act out the story on the number line with the Three Bears, and instead of just telling the story or listening to it again in the book, they're actually recalling the events of the story. Well, what happened next? Whose chair do they sit in next? And they go and get on the time frame. So once again, they are learning the sequencing of the story. So it's reinforcing those ELA skills that they learned also during their math class. This is again where we were talking about equals right from the beginning. This is week 3. We're learning that 3 is the same as or equal to 3. And with this activity, we put one person out there and we said, is that right? They said, no. So what do we need to do? So she went over and she went and grabbed her 2 more and went up there and made it right. And so with little things like that, that they're actually able to move around and manipulate themselves and be the actors in math, it really helps them internalize it. Up at the top is where they started decomposing. And still, this is week 3, and you go decomposing, but they really learn fast that 3 equals or is the same as, and then how can we make equal 3? So we put 1 plus, how many do we need to add to it? And with the other one, 3 equals, there's 2, so how many do we need to add to it? 1 more. And so they learn that equal sign, they learn the addition sign really, really quick, and right from the beginning, they're able to start manipulating things and making those equations.
Just to add on to that, like you can see right here where it says 3 equals and there were some bears and they had to add on, we really try to get them from the beginning to understand that equals means the same. Like right here, you don't have to have a plus sign, you don't have to have a minus sign. That's actually something we worked on again this week. The equal sign just means that it's the same, because so many times in the way we used to teach math, they're so wrapped up in it has to be 4 plus 3 equals 7. And when you flip that equal to the front, it throws them off sometimes. And so I even have high school teacher friends who are just appreciative that we're teaching them that in the lower grades now, because when they get to algebra and they're having to do inequalities and move that equal sign, they're used to doing that.
Because for so long, we kind of taught that equals means the answer is, and so it was always put at the end of the thing. So that's why we're trying to retrain them, or retraining ourselves, teaching them the correct way. Also with 3, we do triangles, of course, with he's just biting the vertices and counting the sides and making the triangles with their group, and using pretzels, anything that we can do that's hands-on, that they can manipulate and move and do, is so much more beneficial than just a worksheet where they circle or color all the triangles. So we try to do things that they are actually able to manipulate and move, and we think it just helps them learn it and remember it for a longer length of time.
Okay, this is apples, and we do apples with week 5 because it always falls on Johnny Appleseed's birthday, and that's my favorite. And so this is just kind of some of the science and ELA, showing you again that everything we do is incorporated. We're not learning something separate in language arts, something separate in science, something separate in math. And so it's just, we did some science experiments, and there's sweet Madeline making applesauce. And again, some of the activities we do, we have a poem with 5 red apples, and some are falling from the tree. And so you can see they had a work mat. A lot of times, instead of actually giving them like cutouts, we'll use beans all the time, and they're just beans that we spray painted red to be the apples. 1 falls off the tree. Okay, let's decompose 5. 5 equals, there are 4 on the tree plus 1 on the ground. And you can see right here, when they're doing this, it's not just one person coming up and writing the equation. Everybody's doing math. They're never just watching somebody else do it. Everybody has a whiteboard. We're sitting in a circle. Deanna calls it horseshoe. They have their work mat in front of them, and we're all doing math. And it's something that you really have to work hard on the first few weeks of school to teach them that management. Your marker goes here, your paper goes here. When I count to 3, your whiteboard's erased, so you're not wasting time. Because, you know, it is a they have to learn how to use the manipulatives, or it will turn into chaos. So you really have to be intentional those first few weeks or the first few times you do it to teach them we have a place for everything, just so that it flows a little smoother and everybody kind of knows what they're doing. And then again, we worked on equal. We just gave them a blank sheet and apples, and they had to make the equations equal, and it's really good, just quick little assessment, go around. First of all, do they have one-to-one correspondence? And then secondly, do they know what equals means? And then again, while we do decomposing, we also introduce subtraction. So when 1 would fall from the tree, 5 minus 1 equals 4. And then this is where Deanna showed you our math stick. And we start using these on number 5, and we use them all the way till number 10. We just have little pony bees that you can get at Walmart or Hobby Lobby, and pipe cleaners. This one, the apples were on the tree, and then when 1 fell off, they would move it to the end. And then they have to draw it on their paper, and then we write the equation decomposing the number 5. And then here, I don't think I have those specific ones, but starting around number 5, we make double-sided manipulatives where we just copy it and glue it back to back and cut them so that they do a shake and spill. And to start off, and with my class this year, we're still doing it together. We put 5 in a cup, we spill them, we sort them, so they're learning that word sort. How many red, how many yellow? 5 equals, okay, I had 5 red plus 0 yellow. Put them back in the cup, spill them again, and that's something we'll keep doing. If anybody's lucky enough to have a Promethean board, you can manipulate it on there as well. And then again, we start with graphing, and graphing's not a specific standard for kindergarten, but we do have a standard that says they can sort and classify things into the correct categories, which is basically graphing. And then we've really tried hard this year, and I don't have a picture of it on here. This is where we tasted apples, and they picked which one they like best, to get them to tell us about the data before we actually ask them questions. So we'll make a graph, and you can kind of see it around where we've done some things this week. What do you notice about the data? And they'll say, you know, well, red had the most. How do you know red had the most? And they'll say, well, because it had 8 and the others had 4. And I'm trying to get mine, and I've even said, you know, what if I didn't know how to count? How could I tell that red had the most? Well, it's taller or it's longer, so you're getting in those measurement words too. And then we usually do like a data sheet where they represent it on a bar graph, so they're learning different types of graph, picture graphs, bar graphs, and then this week we did a pie graph, and then teaching them like tally marks, and then they usually have to write about their data. Fire safety is the next one, and we do this with number 7, and these are just some of the ELA type of things we did. Again, we really work hard on decomposing every week. We do at least 2 to 3 activities. So you can see this is where we worked with a number line, and we had 7 firemen and some left to go fight a fire. So they would get off the fire truck. Okay, 7 equals how many are off the fire truck plus how many are on the fire truck. And again, everybody has the mark board, everybody has the manipulative, so they're all doing math. They're not just watching their friends. And then again, this one didn't have a number line or a 10 frame. It was just the fire truck, and so we worked again on, Deanna's made up some little songs for us, and so they leave to go fight the fire, and then this time we actually did it paper pencil. Again, we do a math stick for number 7, same thing. When they leave to fight the fire, they move their bead down, they represent it, and then they write their equation. And I always make mine, like we'll write the first number, 7 equals 4. Okay, 7 equals 4, is that true? No. What do we need to do? Do we need to add some more to it or take some away? We're adding because 4 is less than 7. And then they represent it. This one, again, is just kind of a little quick assessment to see if they have that one-to-one correspondence and to see if they can recognize the number 7 and know they need to put 7. We use their fingerprints because they think it's fun. Number 8, the week we do number 8, we do spiders, because it's usually in October and spiders have 8 legs, so it lends itself really well. And so we can incorporate all that science and social studies, and then we incorporate ordinal numbers into our ELA. We'll sequence the story, and we talk about first, second, third, fourth. And then we do a lot with making 8 legs and 8 eyes. There again, doing that one-to-one correspondence. Every time we do a number, we do a 10 frame. And the week we did number 8, instead of actually doing pictures of spiders, we just used black beans, and they had to do 8, and then on each one they had to draw 8 legs. And then this is another shake and spill. They had some blue spiders and some purple spiders. Spill them out. 8 equals. There were 3 blue, or 6 blue plus 2 purple. And then this one, another concept we worked really hard on in kindergarten is adding one more and trying to get them to see that it's just that next number. You really don't have to sit there and draw it out or anything. So we started with 0 spiders on the web. 1 crawls on. 0 plus 1 equals 1. Okay, we had 1. 1 more comes. 1 plus 1 equals 2, and so on. This is another graphing activity we do. Do you think spiders are creepy or cool? They had to pick, and then again we wrote about our data. You know, this many people said creepy, this many people said cool. You know, creepy had more than cool, or cool had more than creepy, so-and-so had less. And then just representing in a different way. Instead of the bar graph going up and down, it's going sideways. So they're just looking at that data in so many different ways. And then we analyzed it, did our tally marks again, and then they got to write what they had chosen. And just getting them used to that word data, since we do data folders for each of them, and they're working on their own data. That way they see it in more places than just one. And then, again, we did a math stick with spiders, and they're calling off the web to go catch a fly. We make a spider snack, and the kids had to count out their 8 chocolate chips for the eyes, 8 pretzel sticks for the legs, just another way to practice counting out. And this one gets a little bit more complex. They have a harder time with this when we introduce it. It's counting on, because one of our big standards is, can you start at any number and count on, so that when they get to 2nd grade, they're not having to go 1, 2, 3, 4, you know. So we gave them a number to start with. Okay, everybody put 2 purple spiders on your web. If we have 2 spiders, how many more do we need to get to 8? And that's also that good vocabulary, so when they get to a word problem that says, how many more whatever makes 10, they know, wait, I'm not, you know, I've got to figure this out, I've got to count on. And so they would put green spiders to make it, and then we would just fill in our equation. We do pumpkins with number 9 because it's still in October, and these are just some of the science and the ELA things we do. A poem, we did how do pumpkins grow. They describe their pumpkin, the inside and the outside, and we do a little like adjectives when we do pumpkins. This, you can see there on the number line, everybody, we have 9 pumpkins, and the farmers come in to pick the best pumpkins. So there's 9 pumpkins. The farmer comes in. I just keep that old straw hat in the house center because we use it when we do scarecrows too. He picks one off. So we're getting them, first of all, to see, because when you first do that number line, they'll automatically start way down here, and they'll take one off. And so we have to talk about, well, would that be right, you know, so that they can look and see when they take it off. You don't have to count it. You can just look at that number and know that there's 8 left. Again, we do a 10 frame. The same thing with our math stick that week. The farmer comes, 1 pumpkin gets taken away. And then we do individual number lines, and again, our pumpkins are just beans painted orange, and they're practicing taking one away, so they're practicing that subtraction again also. Again, we do a shake and spill where they separate orange and green pumpkins to decompose the number 9. And we teach them that word, decompose. Decompose means, how can we make this number? What other numbers work to make this number? And then probably a lot of y'all do this too. When we do pumpkins, we go ahead and we estimate the weight of our pumpkin, and then we take it to the office with Miss Susan's scale, and we put it on there, and we see who was the closest. And then we estimate the circumference. And we teach them that word. Now, I don't ever expect them to remember the word circumference, but later on, when they have to learn that word for real, it's kind of back there in their brain, so they have something to connect it to. And then when we were at our math conference, they made a really big deal about estimating with your kids, because apparently Americans are terrible at estimating, and I am too. Like, I can't look at a jar and tell you how many jelly beans are in that jar. So anytime we can get them to kind of guess and estimate is really good.
This is our Thanksgiving, obviously, and these are just some of the ELA things that we did during Thanksgiving. It was then and now, and what would they take with them on the Mayflower. We learned about turkeys and some writing activities. There again, just like what Vickie was saying, we do a lot of decomposing. The Pilgrims are on the Mayflower, and one leaves and goes to the new land. So how many are on the Mayflower? How many are on the new land? So we decompose that way, and we always try to come up with a little song or a little chant, because it's something that sticks with them, and you'll catch them doing it over there, doing it themselves. And hopefully the thought is that they'll take it home with them, and we always bag them up and let them take it home, and that they'll share the song with their family and show them how they decompose also. So
did you make up the songs and chants?
I do. This is the mastic, where they're also doing the same thing, using the same song. We have how many pilgrims are on the Mayflower, how many, one leaves the Mayflower to go to the new land, how many are on the Mayflower, how many are on the new land. And as we're doing that, we're not only decomposing, we're doing more or less, we're doing, are there equal amount on the ship as there are on the land. There's just so many things that you can do while you're doing that skill. This again is the shake and spill, just done a little bit differently with the turkey. They shake and spill, put that many feathers on, put how many orange feathers on according to what they spill out, and then write their equation to go with it. This is just a quick formative assessment that we did, and it would have been a lot easier to say, okay, color the little blocks, color 1 block, color 2 blocks, color 3 blocks, but instead we got corn, because we were learning that the Indians taught them how to plant corn and take care of themselves, and so we used the corn instead of just coloring. So anytime that we can come up with something that they're actually manipulating instead of coloring, because that just kind of gets monotonous sometimes, and we kind of lose them, and they're just coloring. They're not actually learning things. They're not actually counting and placing stuff on a graph or their data there. This is counting on. It's hard to see, I think, but there's like 2 Indians that were already there, so they had to put how many more to make 10. So they're adding to it and counting on. And with the 10 little Indians, we just did their hands on paper, so it's there, so that made it special. I could have just run one off and it just been a generic, but it was special because it was their hands, and they compared at their table who had the biggest and whose hand was smaller, and so I thought, oh, that's a skill in itself, and that was not even planned. So, but this is just an ordering activity. It could be put more Indians on this hand than on your right hand. There's so many things that you can do with it before you actually ordered it and glued them on. This is Polar Express, and this is actually, we're excited because this is what we'll be doing some of next week. But there again, these are just some of the ELA and writing things that we did with the Polar Express. And last year, we actually did Christmas around the world, and so we took the Polar Express to the different places around the world and visited the different places and learned about their culture and what they did for Christmas, and made a craft or made some kind of food that went with the place that we were studying. These are just train cards where we're putting numbers in order, and they're just, they love to, like I would say, number 7 come up, and then they would have to decide who belongs on this side of her, who belongs behind on this side of her, you know. So anytime that they're moving around, we also would take it, and I'd give all the cards to them. Everybody had a card, and then they would put themselves in order. And that is just really funny, watching them problem solve and try to figure out where they belong, and helping their neighbor, no, you belong way over here, and moving each other. It's just really funny. But yet, I'm not saying anything they're solving their own problem and they're fixing it themselves, and I think that's very important. This is just a follow-up from this activity where they did it and turned it into me, just so that I can make sure, just for that practice with writing the numbers and that type of thing. This is where we start a train full of gifts. This is where we are doing base 10. We have 11. We have a train of 10 and how many more. And then we would write an equation to go with it. And these are just Unifix cubes. Also, we have elves hard at work, and there's a little song that I made up to go with it, and the elves are working, and 10 are working, and one more comes and joins them. So we do that and write the number as we go. So a group of 10 and one more is what, 11. So they're always doing and writing, and like Vickie said, they're never watching others do it. They're always doing it. Everybody's got that in their hand, and they're always working on their own. The marshmallows in the cup, where Vickie was talking about adding one more, same with taking one away. So if we have 9 in the cup and we take one of them away, how many are left? So we do anything we can do with helping them realize and get familiar with those equations to 10, we try to incorporate during the week. So we're not just doing take one away for the whole week. That's not our plan. We are doing all of this during the week, and we're practicing and spiraling all of their standards and what they need to do, so that they're getting that practice every week. This is Snowman at Night, and this is something that we like to do after Christmas, because it's kind of the lull part of the year. They come back there from Christmas and they're kind of not sad, but they don't have anything to look forward to. Christmas is over, it's been such a high. So we try to do snowmen, because since we're from Florida and we don't get any snow, that's a big interest with them. So we do a lot of language activities, and there's a lot of great books that go with the snowman. This is where we start doing measurement, and one of our new standards is that we actually measure with something, and as you can tell, they have measured their snowman with the Unifix cubes. And when we're doing artwork, and if you look around the room and you see where they've worked on something, we always try to do like artwork with a purpose. We don't just do a gingerbread man because it's a gingerbread man. It's always a purpose in what we're doing. We want there to be some kind of skill built into it. And with these, we built our snowman, and then they had to measure them, and they had a little sheet that they went around and had to fill out. They also put snow on them with like the shaving cream and the glue, and they just didn't get to put snow on there. You had to put 20 snow, like little snowdrops. So everything has a purpose. This is where we would just use our measuring, where we talked about where we start, where we're in, then we compared, draw one. This is the one they had to draw one that is smaller, they had to draw one the same size, and they had to draw one that is larger. And that's a really tough skill for them, where you would think it would be very easy, but teaching them that, Vickie had an experience this week that
we did it with the gingerbread man, and we measured ourselves against the gingerbread man, and then we looked at our data, but then they had to draw, you can see on that worksheet up above it, they had to draw a gingerbread man that was shorter than the one on the paper and one that was taller. And shorter was no problem for them, but taller, they wanted to start up here, and just because he was higher in the air, they thought that meant taller. So we had to really talk about, you had to be on the same. Miss Allen came in yesterday when we were doing it. They have to be, at this same. You can't have one way up here and one down here and be able to compare them correctly. So it's a little bit tricky, but let's always keep doing it.
This is a fun activity that we also do with the number line, and as you see, we've been on the number line since the first week of school, and here we are after Christmas and we're still on the number line. And this is where they have the snowmen, and the sun comes out and melts the snowman away, so he melts off and rolls off on the floor. They are so dramatic when they do it. But so we're taking one away each time. And so while they're doing this, the other ones have their own, and they have their own sun, and they're melting them off as they go. And then we do it again, and then some other ones get to come up and perform for us. But we're always, there again, I know I keep stressing this, everybody's doing math. We're not just watching. This is just a really quick formative assessment that we did with paint and Q-tips. And this is the number 11, so they had to do a group of 10 and one more, a group of 10 and two more. So they had to show that. So it would have been a lot easier to give them a white crayon or tell them to color in or whatever, but they were so excited about getting to dip that Q-tip. So any little thing that you can do like that excites them and makes it so much more fun. And they love math, and they are so excited about doing math because we are incorporating so many of these type activities. This is probably one of the things that they love the most. And I was thinking that we wanted to do a snowball fight. And I was trying to think how I could do it. So the first year, it was I did it on a whim. And so I just balled up some pieces of paper, and we worked with a table against another table. And they had 10 of the snowballs, and we counted them and made sure there was 10, and everybody agreed there was 10. And then we gave them out, and then they had a certain amount of time that they got to throw them at each other. And they couldn't cross that black line, but they got to throw them, and when I called time, we counted. We made an equation. How many did this side have plus how many side this one have? 10 equals this plus this side. Which one had more, which one had less. There again, it was fun, and they had a great time, but there was a lot of math that went on during that time. What were the other ones doing? They were writing the equations down on their whiteboards, and while they were having their snowball fight. So.
And around this time too, when we do this, because we work with those facts that make 10 so much, because we know how important it is in first and second grade that when they're adding double-digit numbers and subtracting, they need to know how to make a 10 very quickly rather than having to count 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We'll say, okay, there was 4 on this side. If we had 4 on this side, how many do you think were on this side? And let them say, well, 4, I think 6 more would make 10. And then count them to see if they were right. So kind of getting them to internalize those tens facts.
And we also give them a chance to, if they want to draw that out. You'll see some of them trying to draw it out, or when you ask them questions like this. And any way that they come up with it is wonderful. However they, works for them. So we let them, we don't say, no, I want you to count on, or I want you, we encourage anything that they can do to come up with that number, especially at their age.
These, the first year we did paper balls, but then last year Deanna just got yarn and wrapped it and made little pom-poms for everybody, just so it's kind of more fun and we can keep it at, well, she doesn't know where but you can keep them every year.
But I had a neighbor who I borrowed. So I made everybody one. I knew they had one.
Also in January we do penguins because we have so many science standards related to animals. And then we have science standards also related to things that where they have to see if it's something an animal would really do, where they can understand that some books portray animals doing things that they don't normally do. So Tacky the Penguin's great with that, because we learn about real penguins and then we compare them to Tacky the Penguin. And these are just some of our different language activities in science. With penguins, we're still working on those facts to 10. We keep spiraling throughout the year. We don't ever do it and then just leave it like Deanna said. And this is just where they have an iceberg and they have 10 penguins. And we roll a number, okay, 3. Everybody put 3 penguins on the iceberg. We've got to figure out how many more make 10. And instead of saying, okay, count the empty ones and that tells you how many more make 10, really work on letting them figure it out. Because they may use, they may count how many empty ones there are, or they may count on their fingers, they may sketch a little picture, but really getting them to do the math instead of you doing the math, just showing it to them. They really need to be the ones doing it, because when they get to 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade and they do that new test where they have to have a constructed response and explain their thinking for their math problem, they're used to kind of going through that thinking. And then again, we're acting it out. I just took a big piece of that blue bulletin board paper and quick drew a 10 frame on it to be an iceberg. You know, just anything to make it more fun for them, because at this age, even in 1st and 2nd grade, they're still little. You know, we need to be making sure that we're doing things that engage them and make it fun, instead of just, okay, here's your iceberg on your paper, color this many. Just so that they actually enjoy school and they're kind of internalizing it more. And then this is where we were comparing numbers. Kindergarten's not required to teach them the greater than and less than sign, but we go ahead and show it to them because it's not going to hurt to show them. They just had fish, and then whoever the penguin was had to decide which one she would want to eat. Would she want to eat the 20 fish or the 15 fish? And then we would just write the inequality on their paper. Again, this is working on base 10. We had 10 penguins starting on the iceberg, plus we added some more. 10 plus 7 equals 17. Just so they understand that place value, so when they go to 1st and 2nd grade, they know the 10's place and the 1's place. And it really helps teaching it this way, where they don't reverse those team numbers. Because in the past, so often, when we were writing 14, they would actually write 41. But now they understand 14 is a group of 10 and 4 more. So they're less likely to reverse the number if they understand the place value behind it. And this is just a large one again. We just cut some icebergs out of bulletin board paper, and the kids put the penguins up. And then this is back when I had Promethean board, and we had the 10 penguins on the board. And the other kids came up to be the extra group.
Miss Plant,
She loves
where
her
do you
Promethean
get all
board.
these supplies from and all these projects?
You buy us.
We make a lot of them, and I have a real clip art addiction, and so we have quite a few things in our.
But we are blessed that Dr. Hawthorne buys us whatever we need within reason. This is just when we do, again in January we do the mitten because it's cold weather, sequencing those ordinal numbers again. And then this was one of my kids' favorite things we did last year. We just put a clothespin up and then I let them go up and put mittens. You know, we had a group of 10 mittens, and then we added 3 more. How many do we have now? And so like while she's up there putting the mittens, they're putting the 4 mittens on their paper, and then we're all working together. Like this is a different equation, 10 plus 7 equals 17, so we're all doing it together. And then again, just on a different day, we did it with actual paper pencil. 11 equals 10 plus 1. This is just another data and graphing activity we did, whether they like mittens or gloves. And for this one, instead of like having the actual picture of a mitten or a glove, I let them trace their hand. If they like mittens, we just traced it like a mitten. If they like gloves, we traced it exactly like their hand so it looked like a glove. And then just a different way we represented our data on 10 frames that time, just to get a different type of representation. This is also another one of their favorite activities, where we just staple a Ziploc bag to the back of a mitten, and we have the characters from the story, and we start off, okay, how many animals are in the mitten to start off with? 0. Plus, okay, who came next? So we're practicing retelling the story we did that morning, but we're also working on adding 1 more, okay? Can't remember who comes first. The rabbit, just pretend. Okay, so we had 0 plus 1 more equals how many animals are in the mitten? There's 1. And then you keep going until it's finished, and then they get to take it home and teach their family their +1, plus they get to retell the story to their family. And then this is just another measurement activity to practice non-standard measurement. We just measure our stuff with mittens, and they came and wrote how many mittens tall they were. And
it helps them with, you saw how they were lined up, and they work with pairs so that the other pairs go, no, you got to scoot up, you're not at the end. So that helps to reinforce that.
So that when they get to using rulers, they understand the ruler has to be lined up with the end of whatever they're measuring. Valentine's Day, we do a big thing with friendship and friends. So this is just kind of some of the Valentine's activities. This is Froggy's first kiss, relating it back to ELA. This is an old activity I'm sure everybody does, just practicing sorting into different categories. We give them a box of candy hearts, they sort it, they graph it, and then by this time we really try to get them to actually write a sentence about their data. And you don't have to, I don't say you have to write what you had most or what you had least. You can write anything. Like she just wrote, I have 7 white, you know, but that was something that she noticed about her data.
And now that this is something new that we've kind of started this year, where we were talking about it earlier, letting them tell us about their data and we write it before we do this activity. So when they do get to this, they have already done it with us over and over again, so it'll be easy for them to look at it and recall and make a sentence with that. So that'll help them in the long run. And
then again, when we're doing a bar graph where it has, you know, individual spaces, to look and see the one that's taller is the most, the shortest one is the least. And then this is just another activity where we use candy hearts. We had a group of 10 and we added more to make a team number. Okay, this is where we just had, I have like just some plain old blank 10 frames that I'll pass out. And then we had candy hearts and we were working on those 10s back again. I just roll a dice. Okay, everybody put 4 on there. Okay, if we have 4, how many more do we need to make 10? And let them figure it out instead of saying, okay, put some more hearts on there, or okay, count it. Let them figure it out and then go back and count it with them. This is where we just had, Bunny and Deeanna had a lot of leftover envelopes from something one time, and the kids get a kick out of being able to mail something. They just have little heart cutouts and they're mailing Valentines to friends. So they we're taking one away from our stack and we put it in the mail, and so we're practicing subtraction again.
And with that one, it's also good to, if there's 3 in the envelope, and you know you have 10 and there's 3 in the envelope, or if there's 3 outside the envelope, how many are in the envelope, and let them try to figure that out. This is Dr. Seuss, and we at Golson do have a Dr. Seuss week, but in kindergarten we have Dr. Seuss weeks, because we really enjoy Dr. Seuss. And there's so many ELA, so many ways that we can incorporate math with Dr. Seuss and the all the wonderful stories that go with that. This is Truthful of Math, where we acted out, and instead of just having the little trees or having cutouts, I was trying to think of something that we could do. So this is simply just those large pom-poms that I just glued onto a stick. And when we had like extra time or center time, what did they do? They would go in the bag, get those, make up their own problems, and write it on the board without me, on their time. And so that, I don't think they would have done that if it was just a cutout, but they loved playing with those little pom-pom trees. So that's the reason little things like that are so important, because it does make them want to come back and revisit it on their own. That's them again. This is just a follow-up from it with the Truthful of Trees, where we acted it out and started doing a lot of word problems. This again is with Fox and Socks, and like Fox has 4 socks. How many socks would 2 foxes have? So we're teaching them now to draw out their problem, because some of them do that on their own and automatically, but some of them don't. So we do try to help them understand that there are multiple ways of solving problems, and drawing it out and actually putting the socks on 2 foxes will solve that problem. So we're trying to expose them to all the ways possible to solve problems. This is with green eggs and ham, and like Vickie said earlier, we do a lot with beans, and it would be very easy just to pull out some. We have tons of math manipulatives in the closet, but we spray beans and they just think that it's the coolest thing because it's a little bit different and it's not just a manipulative. And so these are the green eggs and ham, and if we have how many green, how many white eggs, and they are making equations with it, and the piece of ham is their work mat. So there we're doing math, but they're using something that we used from ELA earlier that morning, and they're loving it. So this is green eggs and ham, and I had to put this picture on because I love this. This is my little one last year that didn't eat anything. We can always count on him to help me out with it. Because at least we have one that didn't like it. I know he won't like it. But like Vickie said, it doesn't always have to be in a light. We try to do so many different ways. Okay, when you look at this, what can you show me from this? Just by looking at it without counting. So we try to show data in different ways.
First grade, your kids are being picked up and put somewhere, so we're okay.
This is the Very Hungry Caterpillar, and we do like a bug unit and insects, and obviously we incorporate that in with the real caterpillars, and we watch and we journal what happens on a daily basis to them, and then of course the release, and we learn all different things about butterflies. We learn a lot of vocabulary with it, and we actually take the vocabulary that we learned this week when we do our word problems. So you'll see. This is something I did a long time ago. I was trying to think of a way, and I didn't use it for math my first time I did it. I was using it as a retelling for ELA, and then I realized that, oh, I could use this for math, and that I could use the same ones that we use for retelling. And all it is a sock that I just dyed green, and he's old. And he eats through the different things. So we're retelling the story, but each time we write the number. We write the number word. We subtract. Were there more to eat more apples, or did he eat more strawberries? There's just tons and tons of math that we can do with that project. And then they can go home. They can retell the story. They can do the math that we did that day, and hopefully they do.
Madeline still does it.
Well, good. This is where the chrysalises are turning into butterflies, and so they go through that process when we are doing our word problems. There, we're learning that vocabulary that we learned in science about the life cycle. Where do you get that?
Can I please have Derek to check out?
And then, so when they're on the number line and they're turning into, they come out of their chrysalis and they fly off, the butterflies fly away. So they're actually doing the math, and we're taking one away each time, but they're also recalling what we learned in science. And there again, while these guys are acting it out, what are these guys doing? They're doing their own. And the way I did this is, one side is the chrysalis and the other side is the butterfly. So when they fly away, they just turn over and fly away. So this is just doing on their whiteboards. Whiteboards are a must for us. We probably are on the floor with a whiteboard probably at least 3 times a week, at least. Sometimes a lot more. So they're always writing, they're always drawing, they're always making equations, they're always doing math, always. This is again another fun activity that we did where we count by tens, and like we did the numbers 1 through 10 where they had to find their way, same thing. They had to line up in order, and they had to make sure they're in the right order, and they had to help their friends find their order. So it helps. I just sit back and don't say anything and let them do it. And then after we get really good at it, sometimes we just say, you can't talk. And so they have to do it without talking, and that even gets funnier because then they're trying to tell somebody where they're supposed to be without saying a word.
And we started, I actually watched Tiffany do it, like timing them. I'll take my phone out and we'll say, okay, yesterday it took you 32 seconds to get in order. Let's see if we can beat that time today. Just so they're used to that number order.
And this is just the beans again, where they are making the path for the caterpillar to find its way through by counting by tens. And this is a follow-up from this, where they colored it to turn in, and where they wrote 10. So there's so many different ways, and that they're actually getting the paper and pencil, but they're also getting the manipulatives and getting to move and do the math, the getting up and doing math. This is a Peter Rabbit, and obviously we do this around Easter, and we do a lot with like gardens and plants and things like that. But these are some of the ELA activities that we did. And this is everybody knows the tale of Peter Rabbit, where he had his blue jacket and his mom had just sewn for him. It was really special. He had those nice gold buttons, and then all these things happened to him, and he ended up without a jacket, without his gold buttons, the whole thing. So all I did was just made a jacket out of some blue construction paper, but it just wouldn't be complete without the gold buttons. So what do? Spray some beans gold, and it works wonderful. So now we have these gold beans that they think are worth thousands of dollars. You know, they just think they're the coolest things ever because they're gold and shiny. But so those are that's our work mat to do our problems. Like Peter slid under the gate. He had 4 buttons, and he slid under the gate and 2 popped off. You know, solve that problem. So on their whiteboard, they're going to solve that problem. They may draw it, they may write an equation. Usually I try to encourage them maybe to solve it 2 ways, and especially towards the end of the year, which this is. Sometimes we have to ask for, okay, how are we going to solve this problem? 2 popped off, which these guys are showing me plus. So this kind of gets them thinking before they actually get it on the whiteboard and do things. So we have to kind of do little tricks like that to get them thinking. This is, I believe this is on the number line 2, where they have the carrots, and then the rabbit's coming and eating the carrots, and he's taking the carrots away from them. So how simple is it to go buy one of these rabbit ears things, and it makes the activity 10 times more fun, and there you only have $1 in it, you know. So anything that you can do to make it fun and make them excited and really wonder, oh, what does she have us do today? Or, oh, I can't wait for math because I know we're going to do something fun. So, and that's how we want them to feel about it. We want them to be excited about it and look forward to math and not dread having to go to math and, oh, I've got to finish this worksheet, or I've got 3 worksheets to do today. We want them to do the paper and pencil, but also have fun and with manipulatives
and to be engaged, because that's one of the big things if you're trying to get innovating on your thing. Just to have all your kids engaged, and when they are doing something fun, instead of just doing that paper pencil worksheet, they are more engaged, because our kids know if you're cutting up or if you're scribbling all over your marker board, that it gets taken away, and then you just got to use a plain old pencil on a piece of paper. So, you know, make it fun, and then they're more engaged, and then, of course, if the more engaged they are, the more they're actually learning the math.
And we have found that our behavior, even probably our worst behavior problems, when we're doing activities like this, they're the ones that are engaged, and they're wanting to do and want to participate. So it really helps with that also. This is a STEM activity that we did at the end of the year, and it was so much fun that we're trying to do more STEM activities this year. But it was just a very simple, we had the egg, how can we keep this egg from cracking? We took an egg, we stacked up our blocks, we kept stacking up until our egg cracked, so we would find out how it would crack, and then they worked with their table, and then they did their hypothesis, and then go ahead and turn it. Let's see. And then they were given all of these supplies, and I just turned them loose. And we actually did a STEM activity in these last 2 days, and you have to talk to them about being a team and working as a team, because they like to, I want to do my own, you know. And so they have to make the plan and generate a plan and come up with that thing. I do nothing but sit back and watch, and I get them to talk to me. What are you doing? What's your plan? And I actually, with these guys, I went by and videoed their table. I said, tell me about what you're doing. And I had a video of each of them explaining how they were going to keep this egg from cracking, And it is awesome. I did that today when we were doing our STEM activity today and listening to their reasoning to why they think this was going to really work, and I'm sitting here thinking, this is not going to work. But they had some really good reasons why it was going to work. So we're going to test it out this afternoon. So I hope I don't have too many disappointed ones. But they did a really good job. I think turn one more. And there's our cheer before we actually experimented. And then they did it, and you see we had some that were not very happy, some that were really happy. So STEM is probably a real big buzzword right now, and this is just showing you that 5-year-olds can do STEM. So, and this is the beginning of the year we do one. Our projects are not the greatest in the world, but they really learned a lot today from doing the projects, and I expect the next one to even be better because we are doing it. But I just really want to put a bug in about the STEM and really trying to incorporate some of these activities into your curriculum. All right. Anybody having questions?
If we aren't so bright with all the words and making the songs and stuff, do you have any of them around?
All of our kindergarten plans are on Commons.
They're also on the county, is it the Q Drive?
Q Drive.
They're on the Q Drive.
We put everything on there. And they're not the greatest songs, and they don't always rhyme, but
they like them, that's better.
Yeah.
Kind of talk about how this didn't happen overnight.
This absolutely did not happen overnight. Something like I was telling you earlier about going to this in-service and having to rethink things. I did go back that summer and I started writing and started doing some things, but the next year it was kind of a learning curve. I would pull from here and pull from here, and I would still use some of that Go Math, and I would supplement some. And then it just kind of became a gradual process where I found what we were using at Golson, which there was not anything out there that had all of our standards in it. So we had to supplement so much. And so it just became easier for us to rewrite and to write some plans. And it was real important that we incorporated science and math and reading. That was something that everybody was real adamant about and that they wanted to do. Whereas if we're doing plants or talking about plants and science, and we're talking about friendship and ELA, and we're numbers doing fluency and math, it's a very much of a disconnect. But I feel like the way we've done it now, that we're getting so much more out of our day because we're able to do a little bit of ELA and math. We're able to do a little math and ELA. You want to talk something about that?
Well, and I think this is our 4th year in kindergarten doing Common Core, and so I think when it first started, like Deanna said, it was slow. Like I came in the middle of the year, the first year we were doing Common Core, and it was kind of slow, and we'd run back and forth, hey, I did this and it was really good, or hey, I did this and it was terrible, mark that down, don't do it again. And then kind of just over those 3 years, we've kind of got it now where it is kind of like we're in a group, we pull it off Commons. Deanna's not sitting up at night, we're not scrambling to find a clip art for this or for that. So it has taken a few years, but I mean, it is a lot of work. It's not just where you can say, oh yeah, we'll do this. It does take a lot of work, but I think our kids are better off for it now that we are completely standards-based teaching, and that's something that our whole state and our county, if you've ever talked to Michael Kiltz, he is all about standards-based teaching, and that's the way it should be. And when I was in college, I went to college in Birmingham, we weren't allowed to use teacher manuals to do our lessons. We had to pull a standard, create a lesson for it, and so I actually love teaching this way just because it's the way I was taught. taught to teach. But it did, I mean, it was a process of trying to figure out the best way. And it still is, like, we still find new things to do or better ways to do something.
Also, what we found was in some of our manuals that it would be this skill or this standard. And then the next chapter would be this skill. And so we weren't getting to go back and practice what we had done earlier. And it's so important with the little ones that we are constantly doing it. Just because they know their numbers 1 through 10 or just because they're fluent in with addition through 5 doesn't mean that, okay, you're done, you don't have to ever see that again. We want them to do it over and over and over again and to get to experience it in a different way.